Welcome to your favorite program, Books and Nooks of Hope. My name is Philip Guy, and I'm your host for this show. Today on studio, we have our guest, who is none other than Rose Otieno. Rose Otieno is a strong literature evangelist and one of the leaders. She is a book depository assistant with many years of experience. And today, we're just going to be talking about a very, very important book called Home at its Best. Rose, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And today, as I have said, we're going to be talking about Home at its Best, one of the books that are produced by Africa Herald Publishing House, written by Kathleen Reed. And Sister Rose is going to be guiding us through this book. It talks about home at its best. And the reason why we're talking about this is because they are unhappy homes. Sister Rose, what are these unhappy homes and what do they mean?
Unhappy homes are homes that do not know Christ. Mm-hmm. In these homes, people wake up in the morning and they do things their own way. Mm-hmm. So they are challenged with several things, but they don't know how to go about them. So each and every person has their own passion and they don't know whom to turn to. And because of that, mm-hmm. they have various challenges mm-hmm. because they don't know where can they go, where can they get help. Mm-hmm. They look at the television, that is where they get like their heroes from. Mm-hmm. But they are also good homes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these good homes are homes whereby it's Christ-led. Mm-hmm. Because Christ said that I'm the head mm-hmm. of the home. Mm-hmm. And if the fathers take responsibilities, mm-hmm. they have the altars in the home, mm-hmm. then it becomes a Christian-led home. So it becomes a happy home. So that's why there is a difference between a happy home and a Christian-based home.
Wow, what a big difference between an unhappy home and a happy home which is Christ-led. And I'm sure Kathleen Reed is able to take us through this difference between unhappy and happy homes. She also talks about spiritual homes in, I think that's her second chapter, isn't it?
Yes, that's
so. What is the characteristic of these spiritual homes?
In a spiritual home, you have the father taking the lead role in terms of directing the children and the family members. So they have an altar. Yeah, an altar can be just maybe a sitting room where everybody congregates so that they have their normal prayer time. Yes. And the father takes the first lead role because he teaches the children and the family members. So from there, the children learn to know that this is how it's supposed to be done. Yeah, so that's why it is called a spiritual home.
You know, Rose, I'm thinking that there are so many fathers who have abdicated their responsibilities, so maybe they're just absentee fathers. I think probably that's the reason why most of our homes, the homes around, are broken. Do you think this could be a contributing factor?
This could be a major contributing factor into the broken homes. Because when the father is not there, whom does the children look up at their role model? But then there are also fathers who are absent because they have gone to sleep. Now, in this case, the mothers take up the responsibilities.
In other words, the father is dead.
The father is dead.
The mother takes both the role of the father and the mother.
And the mother. So she takes up the responsibility of training the children to become spiritually alive. Yes. So the children learn from their mother. Yeah, because the mother is actually the person who stays with the children most of the time. So the character of the children are actually built from the mother, but the father takes the spiritual lead.
Wow. So there are three important persons here.
Yeah.
In a home, we see the role of a father.
Yes.
We see the role of a mother. And then we see the role of the child or the children.
Yes.
So first, we have the responsibility of the parents, and then we have the responsibility of children within a family, isn't it?
Yes.
So you are saying that the role of the father and the mother is very crucial.
These are very crucial in any given family situation.
Tell us more about that.
Because when you talk about a family, first of all, we talk about a home. Now, what is a home? Home, first of all, it is a shelter.
Yes.
Now, when we talk about a shelter, it is a place where people feel safe.
Oh.
Yeah. So in that meaning of feeling safe, there has to be some people to ensure that you are safe and in that environment.
Sure.
Now, what does this safety comes with? It comes with people who loves you.
Okay.
Now, the people who love you are your parents first. The neighbors can love you, but they can never love you as much as your parents love you. So the fathers take up that responsibility of loving, taking care of the responsibility of ensuring that their children and the family as a whole has everything that they need.
Wow.
It doesn't mean that they have what they don't need. You know, people can say that we don't have enough.
Yes.
What does enough mean? Enough is relative.
Sure.
So the father will guide the children by providing exactly what they need. Like our Father in heaven. He provides for us only what we need, not our wants.
Okay.
Then within that scenario, the mother takes the guiding role of ensuring that our children are given the right character. Their characters are built properly. So at the table when they pray, the father will start probably the first day, the mother will follow, and the children do the learning. Now from that learning aspect, the children learn, and when they go outside, they are able to share with other children.
Wow. So when the father and the mother guide their children, they also become role models to the children in the home.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. That takes me to the chapter number 3 of the book Home at its Best.
Yeah, okay.
And there I find Kathleen talking about managing children. I want to presume that not many parents know how to manage children. And she must provide some guidance or some guidelines on how to manage children within a home. How does that happen?
Managing children, you know, children have a different kind of character or temperaments. So when Kathleen talks about managing children, she talks about managing children with different kind of temperaments. Yeah. So there are children who are very shy. There are children who are very easygoing. So this kind of children, when you have them, how do you know in terms of how do I take care of this particular child?
Okay.
For example, when I'm telling this child to do this, how am I supposed to approach this child?
Yes.
And besides that, how am I talking to the child? Because the way I talk is more important because the child will be listening.
Okay.
There are other body languages that when I talk, I might be saying that I'm talking in a soft voice, but my body language is saying, when you come here, I'll kill you.
Okay.
That's a different thing.
Okay.
But then I might be saying, I'll kill you, but with a loving voice. So this child, when he hears, he knows that mommy is seriously annoyed with me, but mommy still loves me.
Okay.
So I'll be able to do what mommy says. So that is what we talk about, managing children, understanding the children, and bringing them in the concept whereby they understand what they need to do, but not letting them just anyhow.
So what I hear you say is that if I have 2, 3, 4 children, I don't have to treat each child the same as the other. I have to look at each child's situation and treat each child differently.
That is it.
You know, I once had a parent teach during a seminar that there are children who understand the cane, and there are some who you can just talk to and they listen to you and they understand. Is that what we are talking about? There are some you have to be a little tough on them, and there's some you have to be persuasive. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about and more. Because from experience, children will be looking at you. Yeah. So even how you are managing children, even in the house. Now, you tell a child to do something, and you yourself, you're not doing it. How does a child learn from that? Do you even know what makes your child happy? You know, even in the home environment. So when we manage our children, we actually even give them chores that they like most, and we help them to do them in the proper way.
Okay.
Yeah, so we understand our children. But caning, as you said, or spanking, it's not a bad thing. But how do you do it? Yes, do you do it in that heat of anger? No.
So how is it supposed to be done if I have to spank a child for doing something wrong?
Okay. One, it's part of the disciplining of the child. But it's so, Kathleen also say that when you want to spank a child, which kind of child is it? Is it that rowdy child? Yeah. So there are some children that by spanking, you are making them to actually continue doing those bad things.
You're making them worse.
Yes. So that those kind of children, you don't go that direction.
Okay.
For them, you appreciate what they do. You praise them. Anytime you see a slight thing that they've done well, you appreciate them.
Okay.
And from there, they see that my mother loves me. Now, if my mother loves me and I do all these bad things, what else can I be able to do to ensure that my mother loves me more? So the next time you talk to him or her about something bad that they've done, they'll be thinking about that kind of love that you have for them. And for that reason, they'll be always wanting to do the right thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, you know, we've already talked about children learning from their parents, or rather parents becoming role models
Yes.
to their children. How important is this?
This is very important because we are the first people that our children meet. For example, when I tell a child that do not lie, and then on instant, my child listen. When I'm having a conversation with my neighbor, and then I'm telling my neighbor, you know, neighbor, we don't have water in my house. You know, but then there is water running. My neighbor has requested for water to drink.
And you're just being mean.
And I'm just being mean. I'm just feeling that this water is not enough for all of us. So I'm saying, I don't have water. I'm so sorry.
And the child is
And
able
the
to
child is
listen to
listening to that. Now, when the child listens to that, she says, but mommy is a grown-up. And whatever she tells us is what we should follow.
Yes.
So it means lying is good. Yeah. So we are teaching the children because we are their role models, first and foremost. Yeah. So whatever we teach our children, they listen to. How we act, they listen to. How I dress, my child would want to dress that way. Yeah.
You know, Rose, that reminds me of a childhood story that I listened to many years ago, that there's this child who the parent was closed in the bedroom, and the child was told, whenever so-and-so comes, tell them, mommy is not there.
Yeah.
So the child goes to the door and says, mommy has told me to tell you she's not there.
The reason is because we told this child to be truthful.
Yes, you've already taught the child to be truthful.
Yes.
And now
So
you're
she's
giving a mixed signal.
Yeah, so she's still maintaining that truthfulness by just reporting what you've said.
Yeah.
So the child in this instance, she's not wrong. You will be scolding her for having said the wrong thing, but actually she said the right
But
thing.
you are actually the one who is confusing the child.
Yes, that is the truth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now there's this Bible story about Eli, who was a priest. And I've read that Kathleen also talks about this man of God, Eli, probably having set a bad example to his children. What can you tell us about that?
Eli was a man of God, and he loved God with all his heart, but he didn't know that the word of God also was supposed to be transferred to his children.
Yes.
The way he was keen with his congregation, he should have been keen with his children.
Okay.
So he left his children and he never taught them in the right ways of God. And for that reason, his children all perished.
Yes.
Now, that tells us that even us, whatever we do, we need to take our children first. Because our children, they are the gift that God has given us. The Bible says that the children that you have in your youth are the gifts that you have.
For sure.
And we are accountable for them. So as Eli did, we should not follow his example.
Okay.
I would rather say we follow the example of Hannah, and we could also follow the example of Manoah. When he said, God, can that man come back again and teach me how I'm supposed to train this child?
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. And in Anna's case, she said, I will do everything. Because you've given me this child, as I promised, I will take him to the temple so that he can be able to serve you. Now we see Eli supporting, training Samuel this is not his child,
Yes.
and leaving his children.
Yes.
So that is a bad example.
And so in Home at its best, we are actually told to take our children as, of that importance. We give them first priority.
Yes.
You know, there are some homes where you see that some plates are reserved for special guests. Some choice foods are reserved for some special guests, and children are only given probably leftovers or, the normal foods, but some special ones are reserved for some special people. What would you say about that?
When these children grow up, they will resent their parents. Because one, they never felt the value of their parents. Even when visitors come,
Yes.
there are some homes when visitors come, the children are displaced.
Okay.
And they don't know why they are being displaced.
Sure.
So it is important that you tell the child for what reason you are displacing them, so that they be able to understand what is going on. And in terms of food, give your children the right food, because they are your children.
Sure.
Those visitors will come
And
and
go.
then they will go. But your children will stay with you forever. Yes, they are your children. And
sometimes-
from whatever you are teaching them,
Yes.
that is what they will go and teach. If you taught your children that the best are for me and my guest, when your children grow up, because you are their role model, when they grow up, the best will be for them and the guest.
They'll forget about you.
They forget about you. Even when you call them, they say, Mommy used to give us leftovers. Dad used to give us leftovers. So they'll be giving you the leftovers.
Leftovers.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much, dear viewer. You're watching Books and Nooks of Hope, and I'm Philip Guy, your host for this show. Today we have our guest, Rose Otieno, and Rose Otieno is taking us through the book Home at its Best. We want to make sure that your home is going to be one of the best homes, where the best principles of home management are practiced and actually exemplified. And that's why I'm asking you to stay with us, because we'll be right back after the break. Welcome to Books and Nooks of Hope. I'm Philip Guy, your usual host, and the guest on studio, we have Rose Otieno, a veteran, dynamic, strong literature evangelist, a leader with charisma and dedication. And she is here to help us, guide us as we walk through this book by Kathleen Reed that is entitled Home at its Best. We want to make sure that you get to read this book, and at the end of this reading, your home is going to be one of the best homes around. And so, Rose, tell us about obedience. What does Kathleen say about obedience? I believe that is chapter 10 of her book.
When she talks about obedience, she talks about obeying. Yeah, obeying means submitting. But submission also comes with a lot of authority and sincerity. So for example, if you tell your child, go and do this. Now, how does your child take up that? You know? So when a child obeys, it's not because that the child fears you, but it's because of the love that the child has for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is this why in her book she has actually entitled it Obedience That Is Pleasant? It looks to me that there are two types of obedience. Obedience made pleasant. It's like there's another obedience which is not pleasant. Is that the one you talked about, which is based on authority?
Yes. When we talk about the pleasant obedience, it's about the tone of your voice. Yeah. When you are giving commands, how are you giving that kind of command?
Yes.
Is it a command that is pleasant to the child's voice? Or is it a command that comes with authority, that has some negativity?
And arrogance, probably.
Yeah, at the back of it. That if you don't do it,
this will happen.
this will happen. But then there's this one that you tell a child that, go and do this.
Yes.
You know? And the child knows that this is because when I do this, it is for the benefits of myself and then the entire family. Because the child has learned that in the home, everybody has a responsibility.
Sure.
So in terms of responsibility, there are things that the child needs to take care of. There are things that the mother needs to take care of. And there are things that the father needs to take care of.
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that I find some parents have a challenge with is training a child in terms of character development. And I'm sure Kathleen talks about this in her book, Home at Its Best.
Yeah.
How does a parent train a child in terms of building this child's character?
Training up a child, first of all, you work with this child. And secondly, you understand the needs of this particular child and the things that go around.
Sure.
The environment also is very important. Where are you training this child at? You know, when you are in a camp, it's totally different from a child that is being trained in a local village. So it is important that you understand your environment first.
Wow.
And then from the environment, now you bring the training. But the training actually has to come with love. And it has to come with support.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we are even in the home, when a child wants to do something, you give them tasks.
Yes.
That those kind of tasks that they themselves are able to do. Don't give a task to a child that a child is not able to do. And don't promise a child something that you're not able to provide. Because when you promise, you know that at the end of the you tell a child that, you know what, I'll buy you a bicycle if you become number one.
And many parents do that.
We do that a lot. Now, we think that our children are not talented enough or good enough to become number one. So at the back of our mind, we already have that negativity. So this child, because he has a promise, he goes,
works hard,
gets that number one. Now, his hope is that he's going to get that bicycle.
You have to fulfill your promise.
Now, if you don't fulfill that promise, you've broken this child's heart. And besides that, because you are the closest person to this child, and he looks unto you for everything, he will not believe any other person.
Wow.
You've lost the trust of this particular child.
Okay.
So it is important that we keep our promises. And if we are not able to, we speak about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that the child understands that it is for now that I'm not able to do it, but I still promised that I would do it.
I would have loved to do it, but the situation now does not allow.
Does not allow.
But at the appropriate time, when I get enough resources, I'll do as I promised.
Yes. And make them understand. And let that situation be a situation that actually they are able to understand.
But Rose, many parents don't get to do that. In fact, when they are caught, off guard, they become annoyed. They are furious at their children for demanding this bicycle, not knowing that they're the ones who actually promised it.
And that's where we lose our children. And that's why we say, I don't understand this child anymore. It's not that this child, you don't understand it. It is the seeds that you are sowing in your child. You say that my child nowadays is an angry child every time. This child is angry because he can't let out his feelings. Yeah, the feelings are there, and these feelings, the bad negative feelings, are you who has brought them in him.
You as a parent planted that seed.
You did plant them.
Oh my.
And now when they are growing, and you say that this is not your child that you know. And most of the time, we hear parents saying that this is not my child.
Yeah, I've heard that several times. This is not my child.
It is your child. All the negativity in that child of yours, you are the one who planted them.
It.
Because one, when this child was angry, you never listened to this child. You always did what you think the child should be able to do.
Okay.
For example, telling your child to go to the garden, it is not bad.
Yes.
But are you going with your child? Yeah?
I heard you say that you need to work it together.
You work it together so that this child understands that I'm doing this not because mommy, not because I'm of a lower person, but because I'm part of this family.
And you know, they then don't see that working in the garden is a punishment.
No, they
but
don't
they
see
it as a they see it as a responsibility that everybody needs to do within the family.
Needs to do with it in the family. I remember growing up, the days that we go to the shamba, all of us, my dad, my mom, and every other person, we will feel so happy.
Then it will be a joy and
it
a
will
delight
be joy.
to work together.
Yeah, but when we go with my mom and my siblings, okay, there's that joy, but it's not as joyful as when dad comes in.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Catherine also talks about training the child for honesty. How do you train a child to be an honest child?
As I said earlier, it is about things that come from you. Yeah, because your child listens to you. First, as we are supposed to give 10% of tithe offering.
Yes.
Now, most parents, we don't give. Yeah.
And the children get to know that?
And the children get to know that. Sometimes the children, how do the children get to know this? Maybe we are tight in a budget. And then we say, I will just add up this, and then the next time we'll be able to pay double.
Yes.
That is not right. Because the harvest that God gave you now, especially if you are somebody who does farming, the children will be able to count 1, 2, 3, and they will say 10
Maybe
bags.
10 bags of maize or
yes.
beans or whatever.
And they know, because at your family altar, you've probably said that 1/10
belongs to God.
Belongs to God.
Sure.
So from them, they know they've already counted, and they are happy that this one is for God. Okay? Now, when you bundle everything
and you start consuming and keeping them for yourself.
Yeah. Then God is not a serious person. Yeah, because they don't see the wrath of God coming on you immediately. Yeah, and that's what they expect. But they learn to believe that 1/10 is not a serious thing. So there is no honesty, and it is you who has actually taught them about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to learn this anecdote, I guess, from Catherine about this mother. The child would come back home every day with something from out there, and the mother would not, castigate the child or ask the child, where did you get this papaya from? Until the child actually became a thief. Because the mother would just receive everything that came into the home from out there. What's your take on that in terms of training a child on honesty? Now,
when your child comes with something that is not yours, first of all, you need to ask whose it is. Now, the child will tell you. Probably they will lie about it, but then you need to sit down with your child and tell them that as much as you love this, we are not able to afford it, but it belongs to someone
else.
Yeah.
Yes.
And these people are actually missing it.
Yes.
For example, you ask your child, if they have their own toy, how would you feel if somebody else took this toy of yours?
Yes.
Definitely they will say they would feel bad.
Bad, definitely.
Then you'll ask them, what would you want done? Definitely they will tell you that if somebody picked it, I would like it returned to me. Now, from there, the child has learned that it is important when somebody loses something that they love, they would like it returned. So the best action is walk with your child and return.
That whatever it is,
wherever
the child got it, it has to go back to that place.
It has to go back
Okay.
there immediately. Now, if maybe it is dark and the place is far, the first thing is to return. But don't scold the child.
Okay.
Let the child know in a loving manner that it's not the right thing to do.
So that is actually training your child for honesty.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I know you had talked earlier on about punishing your child, but Catherine has dedicated a whole chapter on punishment. This is somewhere I know most parents miss it or go wrong on punishing a child. I guess that would be chapter 15. What is her take on punishment that parents actually administer to their children?
According to Kathleen, on page 98, she talks about rewarding the children for the good things that they've done. Yeah, not actually punishing, but rewarding.
Okay.
Yeah, but then she goes further and says that, as I said earlier, there are children that when you punish them, you make them worse.
You harden them.
You harden them. So what is the best way of working with this particular child? Is by identifying the good traits in them and then praising those kind of traits, the good deeds. Yeah, but not actually being very hard on them. But she also says that when you have to spank a child, because sometimes that must be done.
There are cases where you
Yeah.
spare the rod, you spoil,
You
the,
spoil
child.
the child.
So there are cases that actually calls for spanking.
Yes. When that has to happen, don't just go spanking. Sit the child first. Let the child know what
The reason.
the reasons as to why this has to be done. And then tell the child that this is the punishment that you're going to get.
For this and
for
that.
this. And as much as I'm doing it, it hurts me more than it hurts you. Yeah, so the child knows that when you're spanking, you are paining more than it pains her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is with a lot of love. Yeah. And then you don't have to wait like the child made a mistake last night and then you wait for 2 days and you start spanking the child for the mistake after 2 days.
Yes.
Doesn't work.
So you do it
has
instantly?
to be immediate.
Okay.
But then it has to take a procedure
Okay.
whereby the child understand. And you have to get an understanding of the child. You need to ask the child, do you understand? Now, if
So
the
it's
child...
not just about emotional sparking
No,
and
no,
anger
no,
and, you
no.
know, pouring your wrath on the child.
No. That one you're not disciplining.
Okay. Okay, now there's one aspect that many parents would probably shy away from, and you know, even in schools, they have discussed this issue of sex education, and there's fear, do we talk about it, do we not talk about it? And I'm sure in chapter 16, Kathleen talks about sex education. How do we handle this with our children?
Now, people shy away from sex education because maybe in African context, they think it is a taboo.
It's a taboo for
Yeah,
parents to talk to their children about sex.
Yes. But then when we don't talk about it, the children will go and learn from somewhere else.
Elsewhere, definitely.
And when they learn from elsewhere, the information that they have becomes even worse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? And they would like to do an experimental. So Kathleen talks about sex education, that she says it is a very important thing because children will probably ask, where did we come from? Yeah. So it is important that the children understand the mystery about their birth.
Their conception,
Their
being
conception
carried in the womb.
for 9 months, and then the birth process. How is it possible that they came to life? To life.
Okay.
Yeah, so sex education is important, that you need to sit down with your children. Probably it depends also with the age of the child.
Okay.
You would not go throughout it, the whole thing. When a child asks a question, you need to answer that question and answer it honestly.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me something, Rose. What is the most important aspect in the book Home at its Best?
The most important aspect of the book Home at its Best is about a family living together.
Family living together.
And trusting God.
And trusting God.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. That's awesome. My viewer, we have been having Rose Otieno on studio, and she's been talking to us about the book Home at its Best. In the program Books and Nooks of Hope. This is your favorite program, and we don't want you to miss any episode as we delve into these books, as we read them, as we eat the books, as we devour the books, so that we will learn from them. And welcome to the program. Next time, it will be Books and Nooks of Hope. Thank you, Rose, and God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you.